The tranquility of Applewood Heights was shattered. It was a seemingly ordinary day, the sun shining brightly on the lush green lawns and children playing in the park. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a sinister secret lurked, a deadly deception that would leave the community scarred and forever changed. The news spread like wildfire, a chilling whisper that sent shivers down the spines of every resident. Someone was targeting innocent people, their weapon of choice, a most unexpected one: poisoned pills. The first victim, a beloved local teacher, Mrs. Emily Carter, was found lifeless in her home. Her death was sudden and mysterious, initially attributed to natural causes. But the autopsy revealed a dark truth. Mrs. Carter had ingested a lethal dose of cyanide, cleverly concealed within seemingly harmless over-the-counter pain relievers. Fear gripped the community as whispers of foul play circulated, replacing the once peaceful atmosphere with an unsettling paranoia. The idyllic town of Applewood Heights had become the hunting ground of a ruthless killer. As investigators delved deeper into the case, they uncovered a chilling pattern. 2 more victims, both seemingly unconnected to Mrs. Carter, met their demise under eerily similar circumstances. John Riley, a retired mechanic, and Sarah Davis, a young nurse, were found dead in their homes, their deaths initially ruled as accidental overdoses. However, further investigation revealed the same sinister signature, cyanide-laced pills, disguised as everyday medication. The realization dawned upon the investigators and the terrified community. They were dealing with a serial poisoner, a cunning and merciless individual who walked among them. The once idyllic town of Applewood Heights was now shrouded in fear and suspicion. Neighbors regarded each other with wary eyes, the bonds of trust frayed by the invisible hand of a killer. The poison pills had not only claimed innocent lives, but had also sown the seeds of doubt and paranoia, transforming the once peaceful community into a breeding ground for fear and uncertainty. The shadow of the poisoner loomed large, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that could lurk beneath the surface of even the most seemingly idyllic places. Emily Carter was more than just a teacher. She was a pillar of the community, her life dedicated to nurturing young minds and shaping future generations. Her death left a gaping hole in the hearts of her students, colleagues, and the entire town. The pain was most acute for her family, her husband and 2 young children left to grapple with the sudden and senseless loss of their beloved wife and mother. Their home, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with the deafening silence of her absence. John Riley, a man who had lived a long and fulfilling life, was looking forward to his golden years, enjoying his retirement and spending time with his grandchildren. His death was a cruel twist of fate, robbing him of his well-deserved peace and leaving his family devastated. His children, now adults themselves, were forced to confront the mortality of their parents, the harsh reality of life's fragility hitting them with unexpected force. The pain of his loss rippled through the community, a stark reminder that no one was immune to the reach of tragedy. Sarah Davis, a young nurse with a bright future ahead of her, was just beginning her journey in life. Her dreams were cut short, her potential extinguished by the cold hand of a killer. Her death was a particularly bitter pill to swallow, a stark reminder of the fragility of youth and the indiscriminate nature of violence. Her parents, grappling with the unimaginable pain of losing a child, were left with an unbearable void, their lives forever marked by the tragedy. The families of the victims, united by their shared grief and the senselessness of their loved ones' deaths, found solace in each other's company. They grieved together, their tears mingling with the shared pain of loss. Their homes, once sanctuaries of love and laughter, were now transformed into shrines of remembrance, filled with photographs and mementos of the lives that were so cruelly taken. The families clung to the memories, finding comfort in the echoes of laughter and the warmth of shared moments, even as they struggled to come to terms with the harsh reality of their loss. The task force assembled to investigate the poisonings was under immense pressure. The rising fear in the community demanded swift action, and the investigators worked tirelessly, following every lead, no matter how insignificant it seemed. The first breakthrough came when a meticulous review of pharmacy records revealed a disturbing pattern. All 3 victims had purchased over-the-counter pain relievers from the same pharmacy, albeit on different dates. This seemingly innocuous detail, combined with the unique modus operandi of the killer, provided the first tangible link between the victims. Further investigation revealed that the pills had been tampered with after leaving the pharmacy. The killer, it appeared, was meticulously replacing a random selection of pills in each bottle with cyanide-laced capsules, leaving the rest untouched. This modus operandi spoke volumes about the killer's psyche, suggesting a methodical and calculating individual who derived a perverse pleasure from the randomness of their victim selection. It was a game of chance, a macabre lottery where the prize was a swift and silent death. The investigators, now working on the assumption that they were dealing with a single perpetrator, focused their efforts on identifying individuals who had access to both the pharmacy and cyanide. This line of inquiry led them to a local chemical plant where they discovered that a small quantity of cyanide had recently gone missing. The plant's inventory records pointed to a single employee, a man named Arthur Bishop, who had signed out the missing cyanide just days before Emily Carter's death. Bishop, a quiet and unassuming man, quickly became the prime suspect. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, the investigators began to build a compelling case against Arthur Bishop. His access to cyanide, his connection to the pharmacy through a relative who worked there, and his quiet, unassuming demeanor, which could easily mask a sinister nature, all pointed towards his guilt. The net was closing in, and the investigators were determined to bring the poisoner to justice. However, they were acutely aware of the need for concrete evidence, knowing that a flimsy case could easily unravel in court, allowing the killer to walk free. Arthur Bishop, the man who had emerged as the prime suspect in the poison pill case, was an enigma. To the outside world, he was an unassuming, almost invisible presence. His neighbors described him as quiet and polite, a man who kept to himself and rarely interacted with others. He had no known history of violence or any prior criminal record. What could have driven such a seemingly ordinary individual to commit such heinous acts? To understand the mind of a killer, one must delve into the darkness that lurks beneath the surface, exploring the intricate web of experiences, traumas, and psychological complexities that shape an individual's capacity for evil. The investigators, in their quest to understand Bishop's motives, delved into his past, piecing together a psychological profile from the fragments of his life. Their investigation revealed a childhood marked by neglect and emotional isolation. Bishop had grown up in a broken home, raised by a single mother who struggled with alcoholism and mental illness. He was often left to fend for himself, his emotional needs unmet, his cries for attention ignored. This chronic deprivation, the investigators theorized, could have sowed the seeds of resentment and a deep-seated anger towards the world, a simmering rage that eventually boiled over into violence. Further investigation uncovered a history of social awkwardness and difficulty forming meaningful relationships. Bishop had always been a loner, his attempts at connection often met with rejection and ridicule. This social isolation, coupled with his unresolved childhood traumas, could have fostered a sense of alienation and a distorted perception of the world, leading him to view others as objects rather than individuals worthy of empathy and compassion. In his warped worldview, the random selection of victims through poison pills could have been a twisted way of asserting control, a way of striking back at a world that had always rejected him. The investigators, while mindful of the need to avoid simplistic explanations, recognized the complex interplay of factors that could have contributed to Bishop's descent into darkness. His childhood trauma, social isolation, and possible personality disorders, combined with his access to cyanide, created a perfect storm, a dangerous convergence of circumstances that culminated in the tragic deaths of innocent people. The poison pills were not merely instruments of death, but also a reflection of Bishop's inner turmoil, a physical manifestation of his psychological torment. The poison pill murders sent shockwaves through Applewood Heights, leaving the community reeling in fear and uncertainty. The idyllic facade of the small town was shattered, replaced by an atmosphere of paranoia and suspicion. Neighbors who had once greeted each other with warm smiles now eyed each other with distrust, their friendly conversations replaced by hushed whispers and anxious glances. The poisoned pills had not only claimed innocent lives, they had also poisoned the very fabric of the community, eroding the bonds of trust and shared humanity that had once held them together. The fear was palpable, a tangible entity that permeated every aspect of daily life. Parents were afraid to let their children play outside, their minds conjuring up images of poisoned candy and contaminated playgrounds. The elderly, once active members of the community, retreated into the confines of their homes, terrified of becoming the next random victim of the poisoner's deadly game. The once bustling streets of Applewood Heights grew eerily quiet, the vibrant pulse of the community replaced by a chilling silence, broken only by the sirens of police cars and ambulances racing to the scenes of the latest tragedies. The fear was not merely a psychological phenomenon. It had tangible consequences for the community. Local businesses suffered as residents, afraid to venture out, stayed home. Community events were canceled, replaced by town hall meetings where anxious residents demanded answers and reassurance from the authorities. The poisonings had not only shattered lives, but had also dealt a severe blow to the economic and social well-being of the community, leaving Applewood Heights a shadow of its former self. The poison pill murders had transformed Applewood Heights from a peaceful haven into a community besieged by fear. The randomness of the victims, the insidious nature of the poison, and the lack of a clear motive created a climate of uncertainty and paranoia that permeated every aspect of daily life. The once vibrant community was now grappling with the psychological and social fallout of the crimes, struggling to find a way to heal and rebuild in the shadow of tragedy.